Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sander Lanch podcast. This week, we have read chapters 31 through 33 of Oathbringer, Book 3 of the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. That's actually more chapters than it sounds like when I just say 31 through 33. But in these chapters, Kaladin finally has to part ways with his new Parshman friends, and things go a little sideways, but in the end, he finally returns to Urithiru, and part one ends with someone else. I was going to say returning to Urithiru, but he hasn't never been to Urithiru before. So, but yes, she's finally back. I think we kind of anticipated that, given that we talked about she was one of the perspective characters in part two. So maybe that spoiled a big reveal for y'all. I don't know. We meet some new characters in the interludes, and then reconnect with an old, I'm not even going to say friend.
No.
No, not so much. And then we get the first chapter of part two, where Shallan has to kind of reaccustom herself to the presence of a lady that she... there's some mixed feelings going on. We'll get into it. Anyway, I'm Data, and with me this week is...
Dak.
And Jamie.
Yep, still no Joe. He's on, I think this is week 3?
I believe so.
Of the 4 that he said he probably wouldn't be here for. So yeah, we got at least one more. We had a couple, if Joe's out there listening, we had a couple of people in the Discord like, oh, I miss Joe. So let's get into this. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sander Lanch is about to begin.
Yearnings intertwined, the golden age in ashes once again. Under stirring stars, in the burning shards, kindle fragments of the falling rain. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn. Stronger together.
So yeah, we did a whole 6 chapters this week, if you count the interludes as chapters, which, I don't know, some of them are fairly lengthy. What did you guys think of these 6 chapters?
There's some good meat in this. I'm going to just get ahead of this and say I was very sad when we got to Venli's interlude and we found Eshonai, and it turns out Eshonai is gone. Like, I was very sad. I really liked Eshonai. I will say, technically, I was still correct, because I was always just like, oh, that fall's not enough to kill her. Turns out I was right. She drowned afterwards. So
You guys were all really on, I think all 3 of you were on the side of like, oh, she's obviously still going to be alive. Like, no body, no death, right? So
yeah. Well, now we got the body, so it's confirmation. But yeah, we're just like, the fall wouldn't kill her, and we were right about that. As for the rest, yeah, like the Kaladin stuff was fairly intense. I'll admit I wasn't expecting him to come back to Urithiru at this point. I wasn't sure how long he was going to stick with the Parshman for, but it was interesting when, like, all right, got all the information I can, and they're on to me. I'm getting the fuck out of here. So he off into the clouds he goes. Loved his conundrum that he's going over with Syl. I'm just like, I can't fight against these people. Like, they're just trying to live. But then we get a look at the Parshendi, who have been transformed, and there's a lot more malice going on there. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
The Yasna coming back finally. We can see how she upends the situation. Really happy she's back. I'll admit I'm curious as to so last time we saw Yasna, she was traveling with Wit, but no one's mentioned him being back yet. So I wonder if, and Yasna hasn't said anything to Shallan about it. So yeah, we'll have to wait for an answer as to where the hell he went. But yeah, no, a lot of meat in these chapters. The other 2 interludes were pretty fun, but they're very much like, it's sort of weird with the interludes. Sometimes you get ones that are like so tied into what's going on and the characters and everything. And then some, it's like, oh, you've got this thing that appears unrelated, but then it turns out it's actually a much bigger thing, like with Lift or with Nail, who had appeared in others. And then you get some like these 2, where they just don't appear at all to be connected to anything going on. Like the Lighthouse dude is in New Natanan?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Which, as I recall, Navani said they were responding to Dalinar positively, so this casts a bit of an ominous shade on that. But and then the Ardent, who's reading her, smut novel, which is interesting. And no disrespect, if that's what you want to read, then go right ahead. But I was just like, huh, This is like, given the fantasy setting and everything else, a word that you never expect to hear in a fantasy setting is sequel in universe. And they're talking about, oh yeah, this book has a sequel. I'm like, how do you know that word?
Interesting question. Yeah.
That's a very, at least to my mind, the word itself is very modern. I guess there's like Shakespeare would write sequels to his plays, so maybe it's not as out there as I think. But just the word itself threw me because I've always associated with a modern context.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Good note about Wit. Like, yeah, we know that he has a tendency to kind of like just vanish, right? So
That is kind of his thing, yes.
yeah. And this is the moment that I was waiting for to bring out some a word of Brandon sort of information, because okay, so people asked Brandon, and I have a quote from Words of Radiance signing in 2014. So this is just after Words of Radiance came out. He's signing for the newly released book, and somebody says, "Who are the 5 main characters in the first half of the Stormlight Archive?" And so he goes, "Oh, well, here, I'll tell you. Kaladin and Shallan, obviously, because those are the first 2 books, and we've already had those." He said, Book 3 is Seth, Book 4 is Eshonai, and Book 5 is Dalinar. And sometime after that, he did come back and go, you know what, I've decided to move the Seth Book 3 was going to be Stones Unhallowed, is what it was going to be called. And then he's like, I've decided that I think the story's going to work better if Dalinar's Book 3. And so he shifted some things around, and Dalinar ended up being Book 3. Obviously, we're there. But he had told us Eshonai is Book 4. And so much of the fandom, like you guys, were like, well, clearly Eshonai is not dead at the end of Words of Radiance. She's the main character 2 books from now. Like, we're going to see her flashbacks and stuff. Like, it's silly. She can't be dead. And then you get here. And this is the point where Brandon's like, oh yeah, just because they're going to be a perspective character in a later book, that doesn't mean they're going to live that long. So
brutal.
Yeah. So that's the information that we had going into this book, and some surprises.
So what you're saying is Book 8, the flashback character is going to be Tien.
I mean, it could happen, right? He's actually told us what the other 5 are going to be. I just don't know if I should share that with you guys yet. I'm gonna have to think on that one.
Are they all characters that we've met so far, or?
Let me think.
Without asking who they are they people we've all met, or are some of them characters that we haven't met yet?
I'm gonna say met, using a real loose sense of that word. Yes, I believe they are all characters that we have met.
What the hell does that mean? How is met a loose term?
Well, you know, it's a thing.
The lighthouse keeper. 100%.
I would say that we pretty solidly met that guy, right? Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Whatever.
Okay. So yes. So I guess there's a slight spoiler. I think I already told you guys that Seth had a book, and it was going to be called like Stones Unhallowed or whatever originally. So that probably isn't a spoiler. But I was waiting on the Eshonai thing to be like, well, we'll hold that back until this reveal.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So that it is not tainting your ideas about whether she's alive or not.
Yeah, and
like it did the rest of us.
Well, it leaves open the possibility that Seth might die again, I guess. Before we get to his book.
That's true.
Turns out Seth is the Jean Grey of the Stormlight Archive and keeps coming back from the dead.
I mean, honestly, if you're talking about the X-Men, most of them have done it a few times.
Yeah, and if you know what, that's actually not fair to Jean Grey. She's actually done it less than some of the others. Like, she's only died and come back 2 or 3 times. I think Magneto's up to the double digits.
Oh, well, yeah. With villains, or people who are largely villains, because Magneto can go back and forth. But it's you want to write a cool story where the heroes defeat the bad guy, and so it kind of has to at least look like they're dead a lot of the time. And then you have to make up an excuse, be like, oh, well, we can't not use this popular bad guy again.
Yeah. Actually... I got for the X-Men audio drama that I'm writing, I got into a bit of strife at one point because I was writing another episode and I was like, all right, put these characters in. And then at the time I was listening to all the old episodes again, just to like, oh, which characters showed up in the past that I've forgotten about? Turns out one of the characters that I intended to use had showed up and died previously. I'm like, wait, what? Like, that character is around for decades of comic book stuff. And so I was like, All right, well, making the choice to say she turns out she didn't actually die.
I like that you weren't like, well, I guess I can't use her now. We've already killed her off. You're like, no, we're gonna use her. I just now have to explain why she's not dead.
I mean, I was all set to replace her with someone else, but then the chap in charge is like, look, it's fine. If you want to just say it turns out she wasn't actually dead, go for it. I'm like, okay.
It's like, but we saw her head get removed from her body. No, it's fine. That was
It's
that
comic
was
books. It's the X-Men. It wouldn't be X-Men without people coming back from the dead.
yeah. That was a life model decoy. It's fine.
Yep.
We have gone afield. Jamie, go.
Joe would be proud.
There's a rumor going around this thing doesn't happen when I'm here, but evidently it does.
You didn't
Time to
stop
disabuse
us,
the shit out of some notions.
Yep.
Yeah, these are good chapters. A good sort of tie up of end of part one. Obviously, I was completely here for Yasna's arrival. I got really excited when they were talking about, it's like someone's turned up, someone's back or whatever. And I think Shalom was like, oh yeah, I know the Bridge Boy's back. And I was like, oh, they're not talking about Cal. I know who's coming. I got really excited. And then jumping around a little bit, I guess the first chapter of part two, I was a bit like, oh, Yasna, this is not really the intro I wanted for you. But that's okay. We'll give it time. It's like I really like who Shallan has become. I'm a bit worried about Shallan, so this could be a good thing to be, kind of be a ward again for a little bit or get back to some basics. But I don't want Shallan to like revert completely back to old Shallan. I like who she is. And yeah, I hope we get to see some really cool stuff from Yasna soon. Kaladin's chapter, what he did with the Windspren was awesome. And in the storm, that's definitely new for him. And Syl seemed pretty impressed by that, which is like, oh, this is something to take note of because I don't know that Syl's seen that before. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, what's happening with the Parshmen and then the Parshendi or Voidbringers now, that's a bit terrifying. Having them all grouped together. You've obviously got your two factions really. Your Parshmen just want freedom, and then you've got these other guys who are hell-bent on destroying humans. So there's definitely reason to be concerned in there. The interludes, Venley's, I think, is really the one of note. I sort of got the feeling that the other two were, it's a bit early on, but it's kind of scene setting, from people who aren't really involved, what's their take on what's going on. And it was a good reminder, I think, to have the Dawn chant thrown back in, that people are still working on this stuff. It is having an impact around the rest of the country or the world. And yeah, things are either going to be really good for those people or really bad for those people, depending on how the storms go. And yeah, everything they're doing in Eurythera is going to have impact on all these people. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a bit of fun. I don't mind if we never see those characters again, but maybe book 7 will be our lighthouse keeper friend. I don't know. But yeah, otherwise good. Looking forward to part 2. And I think I'd forgotten that Kaladin is not a viewpoint in the next lot of chapters.
Not by name anyway. Yeah.
Not by name, no. But it'd be weird to sort of be he's back but not be in his head, especially after what he did at the end of part 1. So yeah.
We saw that Bridge 4 was perspective, and so theoretically Kaladin could pop up as part of Bridge 4, I guess. But
he could. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
So you don't need to know if like this Ardent enjoys the sequel to this romance novel.
I mean, look, maybe it's an interlude later on. Who knows? I'm not too fussed on whether she enjoys the sequel of the book, but I'm glad she found a quiet place to read.
The interlude is her sequel.
It's true. It would be. I want an interlude that is just a passage from that book. That would be a thing.
In this book, Brandon writes dinosaur erotica. Oh no!
No, I liked your thought about like we don't want to see Shallan revert. Like I can agree with that. We don't want Shallan doesn't need to go right back to what she was. She's evolved a lot since then, even if some of it is in concerning directions. But Yasna seems to expect them to just slot back into their old relationship, as far as we saw. So that could lead to some interesting things.
Yeah, for Shalana, it's like, are we not going to talk about this at all?
Yeah. And then there's even like deeper problems than that, in that Shallan's like, yeah, the Ghostbloods tried to kill Yasna, and now I'm kind of working for him. Should I mention this? It seems like it might be important.
Infiltrate. She's infiltrated.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Yeah, I guess let's move into these chapters.
It's like Shallan does that thing of like telling two people to meet her at a certain place. She invites Yasna and Mraize to just meet up for lunch, and it's like, all right, we're gonna hash this thing out. No one kill each other.
Sit down, talk it through. No blowguns at the lunch table.
If anyone starts any killing, Rock over here is cooking. He'll put Chaldung in your food. And Mraize's just like, joke's on you. That's my favorite.
It could be. This guy's a little bit strange, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
He has a chicken on his shoulder. Chapter 31 is Demands of the Storm. And the epigraph is just, if they cannot make you less foolish, at least let them give you hope. Which refers to, the previous epigraph was, listen to the words of a fool. So that's what we're referencing there. And so Kaladin is where we start. He's back with the Parshmen that he's been traveling with. And they're approaching a city. There's a whole thing about when he's actually never seen a city. Despite, he joined the army, traveled around a lot, and became a slave, was on the Shattered Plains. It says, unless you count, the war camps, he's never seen a city before, still. Which is just, it's a weird thing to imagine.
Take that, everyone who was calling Urutheru a city.
That'll learn you.
Okay, that wasn't fair.
But the city of Revelar, they finally made it to. And the Parshmen have taken over this city. There are thousands of them here. And he's like, what happened to all the people? Okay. And I like his thought, he's like, I didn't know there were this many Parshmen in Alethkar. I know everybody, all the rich people had at least a few, and even the people who weren't as rich had one or two maybe, but oh, yeah, I guess there were a lot of them, huh? And Saw, the Parshman, is like, oh, this is awesome! We have our own city, Cal! I used to imagine when I was a slave and could barely think that I could have my own home and my own life, and here it is. So
this threw me, not just because of how excited Saw is and everything, but holy shit, Kaladin really got in with these guys. They're calling him Cal.
It's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's they're using a familiarized term of his name. It's like, oh my god, they actually think of him as a friend. We're buddies now.
Kaladin's good at that, at taking these groups that don't like him and turning them around with just his hard work and stick-to-itiveness. He's like, I'm going to keep bugging you until you're my friend. That's kind of what Dalinar's doing with the other monarchs, now that I think about it.
Yeah, Kaladin, teach me your ways.
And so you could see why Saw would be happy about this. It's kind of really sad when he says that, and you think, really give it some thought. And as they walk up, there's a guy, a Parshman, who's... sorry, before we get there, Syl pops in and she's like, there's a lot of those yellow-white sprens zipping around here. So, be careful. And Saw tells Kaladin, hey, you can fight with us. This doesn't have to be humans versus Parshmen. This can be better than that. This can be the oppressed rising up against the oppressors. And Syl lets him know that she's seen some humans crammed into, some quarters on one end of town. So they're not all dead. And also, there's a high storm coming today. Soon. Maybe? She's like, I'm new at this, but yeah, I think so. But they get in line, and there's a guy holding it says a writing board. In my mind, obviously, it's just a clipboard, because that's what this guy's doing. He's just making notes on people coming in. What towns, work camps, or armies did you all come from? He asks the Parshman with Kaladin. And then he sees that they've made spears. Kaladin has helped them make weapons even. And he's like, hey, you guys are advanced. I'm going to send you for special training. Send your captive to the pens, and I'll write down the description here so that once you're settled in, you can put him to work. So I like that. It's yeah, you bring a slave in, we'll make a note so he's still yours, and you can make him work. Very organized. And Ken is oh, yeah, he's not our captive. He was a human slave. He wants to join up. And it turns out that the Spren, who is called Yixley, I don't know that we knew that, starts talking to the Parshman and is like, hey, this Kaladin guy, he's okay. And the scribe is like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, it's not unheard of, but you got to get permission from one of the fused if you want to label him as a free human.
Interesting that it's like, oh yeah, no, like there are other humans who have done this. I'm like, ooh, that's a tantalizing little note that we're just skipping by right there.
I mean, given what we've heard from them, it probably is not terribly shocking that like a human slave might be like, no, you guys have the right idea.
Oh sure, but it's like
screw those light eyes.
Ooh, let's see that. Wait, screw those light eyes. You're not hitting at who I think you're hitting at, are you?
Oh no, I thought any slave would probably won't be like, screw those light eyes. No, I was not trying to specifically hint at someone.
I was gonna say, like, fuck it, if the Parshendi army rock up and Moash is at their head, I'm gonna flip shit. Don't do this to me, Data.
You're like, I was on their side for a whole minute there, but then Moash was here, so no, screw that.
I kind of am sitting here with the popcorn now, being like, I want to watch Dak realize that. It will be funny for me.
Oh, it took me a minute to be like, what are you talking about? Like, what slave would not say screw the light eyes? And then, oh, wait, no, it's Dak. I know who we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it's me.
It's Gaz, obviously, is who we're talking about. Yeah. No. No, Gaz is with Shallan. He's making friends. I guess we don't know what Moash is doing. He could be here for all we know.
Well, last we saw, Graves was taking him to join his secret society, which I think we assumed was Taravantian because he was talking about the diagram.
Yeah, he said it was the diagram, so we assumed that, yeah, that's the same.
But yeah, like, presumably he's not coming to Urithiru because, like, Taravantian's just like, dude, you get recognized if you came with me.
Yeah, that would look bad.
Yeah. Which, I mean, would be on brand for Moash, just fucking up everything that the people he works for are working for.
It's true, yeah. But so the fused is where we were, and Ken's like, "Wait, one of the what now?" And the guy points over, and there is a parchman who's like taller, or parchwoman who's tall with long hair and like looks different from the other parchman, basically. Oh, and also her eyes are glowing red. And so Kaladin is like, "Oh shit, these are the guys. Like Bridge 4 told me about these red glowy eye No, I'm not messing with that." And she looks at him, and he's thinking, I don't know for sure that she can recognize that I'm a Radiant, but I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to get out of here. And so Ken is carrying a big old bag of spheres at his belt, and Kaladin sucks up the light out of them and grabs the pouch, and he says, he tells Ken, hey, get your people to shelter. A high storm's coming. Thank you for your kindness. No matter what you're told, know this. I do not wish to be your enemy. Saw is over here looking very betrayed because Saw, I think, is probably the one who's become closest friends with Kaladin. And Kaladin just takes off into the air.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like just a couple pages ago, Saw's just like, you're my buddy, Cal. You're my boy, Blue.
Hopefully it's not a you're my boy, Blue situation. That's no good.
No.
And there's a great little moment where Kaladin gets some glory spren bursting around his head, and Syl, like, smacks one of them, and it's like, hey, he's mine. Get away. And he flies into the air. He sees the red-eyed woman, like, yelling, and he can also see the storm on its way. And he's like, okay, so your theater's to the west of us. Syl, can you get us there? And she's like, how would I do that? I mean, you've been there before. Well, yes, so have you. And they have a whole thing where she's like, no, I don't have some sort of magical GPS powers, dude. Like, this isn't even my world.
Oh, she should.
You think she should? Would that make sense for an honor spren?
I don't know. She, like, flies around and does her thing. Like, she should have some bearing of where she is, surely.
Okay. And then he's like, okay, well, fine. If we can't find your theory, we're just going to have to head for the Shattered Plains. They have a discussion about how he's like, I feel a kinship with these people still that we've just spent all this time with. And she says, they conquered the city. They're Voidbringers. And he says, no, they're people, and they're angry with good reason. And they have a whole discussion that we've seen parts of before about like what's right and what's wrong. Why was it okay for me to kill Parshendi on the Shattered Plains, but letting Yellowcar get killed was wrong? We were on their land attacking the Parshendi on the Shattered Plains. And like, I killed to help with that. And she's like, well, yeah, but they killed Dalinar's brother. And Kaladin's like, well, yeah, but we have no idea why. Like, they might have been totally justified in doing that. We don't have, like, we can't take the moral high ground on that necessarily. What's the difference between Dalinar attacking the Parshmen, and these Parshmen conquering the city of their oppressors. Like, why is one cool and one is not? And Syl doesn't have an answer. And so he's like, okay, so why is it worse for me to let Elokar be killed than it was for me to actively kill Parshmen? And she's like, I mean, it just feels wrong. Both do, I guess. It's like, yeah, but one nearly broke my bond with you and the other didn't. So this isn't about like black and white, objective right and wrong. This is about Syl, what you see as right and wrong. And she says, no, it's about what we see as right and wrong. Like, can you honestly tell me that the whole time you were playing to betray Elokar, you didn't think it was wrong? And he's like, okay, well, fair.
She's like, no. Don't put this all on me, buddy.
And he's like, okay, but it's about perception. Like, regardless of whose perception it is, I'd really hope that you would be able to tell me what is right. Like, just plain right.
Yeah, so Kaladin's after let your conscience be your guide sort of
Yep.
advice from Syl, but it makes it very interesting points raised from Kaladin, and then how much of it is, yes, you're looking at it, what does Syl think is right, but then fundamentally, what does Kaladin think is right? So easy to think about when you get another Spren who maybe has a slightly different opinion, who bonds with a person who has that different opinion. You're not going to have all of these same type of Sprens function the same way. That makes sense. Like, that was a really interesting thought, because we haven't seen anyone else who has an honor Spren and has the same abilities like as Kaladin yet.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see what someone does with those sorts of abilities, but fundamentally believes different things. And I think that's what we're building to with the Parshendi and their Spren. Like, if they're bonding in the same way, but they're fundamentally believing things that are the opposite, that's dangerous and scary. Whole new complexity added to it.
Yeah. Like, theoretically, if you could have had a Parshendi Windrunner, say, both sides of that battle would have thought they were right. So you could have another Windrunner fighting on the other side and Kaladin on this side and fighting against each other, because they have different perspectives and both are valid from their own perspective. So yeah, that's that could complicate things considerably.
This seems the appropriate moment to also put from my perspective, the Jedi are evil.
Somebody
comment in for Joe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's something I guess to watch out for going forward. You're right. We haven't seen any other honor Spren out here bonding with people. Maybe it would suck if we never saw any more. We don't know much about the honor Spren. We don't know much about any of the Spren at this point. Now that I think about it. Well,
we know Patton is the best.
Yeah, and I guess we know that other cryptics have been hanging around kind of looking at people, because we saw some indications around Elokar. So that we might see more Lightweavers popping up at the very least. Anyway, back to Kaladin. He is in the wind and he sees a pen full of humans. He's like, oh no, the high storm's coming. We got to go and do something. And he flies down to the Parchment guards and he's like, there's a high storm coming. Get the people to safety. And the guards just like stare at him. So he summons his shard blade and has to like cut open the pen. He's like, there is a high storm coming. Like, come on. What did you guys do for shelter when the last storm came? And they pointed over, there's some bunkers over there. And so he's like, okay, well, go. Get in there. And some Parshmen with spears show up, and he cuts off the tops of their spears. He's like, do you want to have this fight? And one of them's like, nope, I sure don't. Like, okay, well then see that those people get to safety. I like that he puts this on them. He's like, look, you guys have taken this town and taken those people. Do better than they did. If you're going to be in charge, if you want to have moral superiority here, treat them better than they treated you. And I like, he asks, how did you work this the last time the storm hit? And the Parchman, she's like, I mean, we just left the humans alone. We were too busy running for safety. He's like, okay.
Look, man, we're new at this.
We're all new at this, yeah. This having a bunch of slaves, it's harder than you think it is, man. Don't come down on us. Why don't you try it sometime? Oh, wait, never mind.
That's how we got in this mess.
It's like, I don't feel bad for how hard it is to own all your slaves. But while he's having this conversation, somebody with some glowing red eyes just like it rams into him, throws him into the wall. It says that it's a blackish violet glow like dark stormlight. And so he flies into the air, and the thing follows him, which there's a surprise. They can fly. And he thinks, well, there's a high storm coming. I can use that to my advantage. It worked against the assassin in white. These probably won't be any better than he was. There's more than one. Another one at least shows up. He says 2 of these parshmen burst through the cloud behind him, but the wind sends them spinning. And then Kaladin's up in the storm, and he calls out to the Stormfather. And then the Stormfather responds. He shows up. They have a whole little chat. And Kaladin wants the Stormfather to, not be a jerk and to let those people survive down there. And the Stormfather's like, no?
Yeah, Stormfather is super pleased about being bossed around by Bridge Boy.
I really want to know what happened between Stormfather and Dalinar after this conversation. It's like Dalinar's just going about his business, and Stormfather pops in and it's like, hey, that Windrunner you have, guy's a real jerk. And Dalinar's like, what? It's like, yeah, just got off the phone with him. He sucks.
Dalinar's like, you're not the first one who's said that to me, actually. But
did he yell "and for my boon" at you? Actually, kinda.
I mean, maybe a little bit, yeah. Kaladin asks him if he can find mercy for those people below. And I love his response is like, okay, but what about the hundreds of thousands who've already died in my storm? Should I have had mercy on them? And Kaladin's like, yeah, that would be nice, actually. What about the waves that swallow and the fires that consume? Would you have them stop? And he's like, look, we don't need to get into all that. Like, I'm just talking about right now.
He's like, hey man, you're not Wave Father or Fire Father, okay? One thing at a time.
I assume the storm kicks up some serious waves. But,
yeah, I know. I'm just being smartass.
And the Stormfather's like, I mean, no, I can't do that. Sorry. If the wind stops blowing, it is not the wind. It is nothing. And then that's done. And he turns to Syl and is like, isn't that guy your dad? Like, he could totally be more helpful. Which we've agreed with that before.
That's a real jerk.
Glad Kaladin's on the same page as us for that.
But Syl's like, I mean, yeah, it's complicated, okay? I think what you're doing is basically asking fire to please stop being so hot. Like, it doesn't work that way.
And this immediately made me think, I am a stick.
Yeah, right?
Literally the point of that conversation.
And he looks down, and a bunch of the people have made it to the storm shelters, which is good. But some people have not. And as the storm hits, he sees some of these people, and he has to try to save them. Like, there's a father with his little boy. There's a woman he's trying to get, like, he goes down and tries to grab these people and help them make it to shelter. And Syl's over here like, Kaladin, you can't save them all. But that's not going to stop him. And as he's trying to save these people, there's a moment where, like, a flash of lightning illuminates a man being crushed by a portion of wall. So that's not great. And Syl says, I'm sorry, Kaladin. And he's like, being sorry isn't enough. And he does something that we definitely have not seen before. Hundreds of windspren begin swirling around him. And somehow he creates, like, a break in the wind, like, shoving it to either side of him and the people that he's protecting behind him. It describes it as, like, a stone in a swift-moving river that, like, the water goes off to either side. And he gets some of these people to safety.
It's like he just punched a hole in the storm. Like Dalinar's in Urithiru and Stormfather just goes, ow. What?
I like that picture, yep. Stormfather's like, tell him to stop hitting me. Jerk. Whatever it is, it tires him out, and so when another red glowy eye parchment shows up, he just takes off. Flies back into the storm. And Syl's like, what did you just do with that storm? And he goes, not enough. And she says, you're never going to be able to do enough to satisfy yourself. That was amazing. And the thing is, flying in the storm, it keeps refreshing his stormlight as he goes, so he can fly as far as he wants. The problem being that he does not know where Urithiru is to fly there. But Syl, after an hour, is like, hey, go that way. And he says, why? She's like, look, just listen to me, okay? I think Father wants to apologize in his own way. And the winds basically carry him and put him right down on the plateau in front of Urithiru. So, hey, nice looking out, I guess, Stormfather. Kind of. I mean,
I guess.
You did squish some of those people with flying rocks and things, but you offered directions to your daughter's That's not really a boyfriend. I don't know what you'd call this relationship, honestly. But chapter 32 is called Company, and our final epigraph from the Oathbringer preface: "For I, of all people, have changed." All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just given all the thing about how Spren can't change, Spren are constant. It's like, is this a Spren doing this? Like dictating and having it being like written down by someone who can hold a pen? I don't know.
Could be. It says "of all people," which doesn't sound all that Sprenly, but maybe.
I guess. Also, I love the description, Sprenly.
No, yeah, that's good. I don't think I'd ever heard that word before, but I'm going to use it now that I just made it up.
Yep.
This is a Shallan chapter, and basically, Shallan's sitting around in Sabariel's place where she lives, and everyone's trying to be real nice to her. Like, Polona's like, "Hey, can I get you anything else?" It's just a few hours after her encounter with Ray Shafir, and everyone's like, "Let's." They got blankets up on her and giving her some nice tea, and they're just like, "Hey, let's. It's okay. It's okay."
It's like it turns out, oh yeah, Ray Shafir actually didn't have a problem with Shallan at all. It's like it sensed Yasna and Wit coming back and was like, oh fuck no, I'm not about this.
No, I'm out. Who would it be more scared of, Yasna or Wit?
Flip that coin.
So, the Midnight Mother, a name from ancient lore, one of the unmade princes of the Voidbringers. Paintings depicted her as a black-clad woman with red eyes and a sultry gaze. And Shallan's like, yeah, it wasn't like the stories. She's a Spren, a vast and terrible Spren, who wants so desperately to understand us. And she thinks, like, there's something more beneath that. Like, Ray Shafir is not just trying to understand humankind, she's searching for something that it itself had lost. Had it once been human? Well, that's a disturbing thought. But the whole point is, we don't know. We know nothing about these things. And Polona's like, I can't believe it was here this whole time. And Shallan says she was captive and eventually escaped, but that was centuries ago. She's been waiting ever since. And Polona's like, well, we should find out where the others are being held and make sure they don't get out. And Shallan's like, yeah, I don't think the other ones were ever captured. They're just out there and always have been. And Polona's like, well, no, surely we'd have discovered them by now, these giant Spren monstery things. And Shallan's like, I don't know. They'd just be normal for us, like the way things have always been. Which I think we learned at some point that one of them is like behind the thrill, maybe? So if that's the case, that's kind of true. It's just like, this is a normal thing to them.
Yeah, that's what Taravangian was saying.
And like everyone's been like doting on her. Polona's praising her actions, like what a hero she is. Adolin was the same way. Dalinar had been downright nice. And she's like, you know what? Maybe I do deserve some, like, I accomplished something. Maybe I deserve a little bit of praise. Like, I feel for the first time, like, kind of like an adult. How crazy.
I punched out a demon. That's right. I deserve some rest.
Yeah. And then Adolin comes in, and he's like, hey. And she's like, oh, geez, he just rushed in here. What's going on? I'm like, no, don't panic. It's a good thing. Someone just arrived at the tower. And she's like, oh, Sabariel already told us the news. The bridge boy's back. And I love Adolin's like, him? No, that's not what I'm talking about. And a bunch of people show up, and at their head is Yasna Kholin, and that is the end of part 1. So yes, very dramatic entrance for her.
So interesting. Like, so these are Shallan's chambers. So
she was in the Sabariel sitting room, I think is what it said at the beginning of that chapter.
Yeah. So, but like, this is effectively where she lives. This is her house.
Yeah, more or less, I guess. Yeah.
And yeah, Yasna busts in here. So they have this, but then like we don't actually see that meeting. And we cut to the next time they meet up, following that in the next chapter after the interludes. And like, interesting, little time skip there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we don't actually see their first interaction. In fact, I mean, it might still come, but we don't really see Yasna's first interactions with anyone. We know Devani would have freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
We never really saw Elhokar's reaction to her dying, so I would love to see his reaction to her being alive.
And I mean, Dalinar also, like, I want to see his reaction, because he spent a long time being like, she's one of the only people that I trust. I wish she was here to talk to, so.
Yeah.
I want to see Yasna's reaction to the fact that her uncle and her mother got married.
Yeah, good call.
Yep.
Uncle, stepdad, yeah, that'll be weird.
Yeah, like I'm sure that'll be in a Dalinar chapter. It's like that's the only time I've ever seen her like really surprised. But yeah, it's like I know she'll have interactions with all these people, and we'll probably cover those points. But I wish we could see like their initial reaction to just what the fuck? How is this? How can this be?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Navani rush in and like get confirmation that her daughter is alive. Like she doesn't want to. Like she's like, no, I wouldn't say she doesn't want to believe it, but it's like she can't believe it until she sees her, and then like she hugs her, and Yasna's like, "Mother, you're so emotional." Like that would have been a sweet scene to see.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We shall see.
Yeah. But for now, our interlude starts with Pooley, the lighthouse keeper, who is one of the only people apparently excited about this new storm. And he's taking his little wagon around, collecting wood to burn at the lighthouse to keep the lighthouse going. And all of these people that he knows are so upset about all the stuff they've lost. Like, Sakin is weeping because she lost her husband. This is the third one that she's lost at sea. He's like, truly tragic. Still, he was excited about the storm. All of these homes have been like destroyed. All the rich people who like built their house in the best spot where it's protected from the high storm, all their stuff is trash now. And he's going around and like telling everybody, "Oh yeah, this is so terrible." But secretly, he's like, "Oh, this is awesome. Love this new storm."
Yes. Very sad. Anyway.
This guy's he's doing the Kent Brockman. It's like, and I for one welcome our new Parshendi overlords.
Well, I thought that it was just like he's like, look at all this free wood I can pick up for my lighthouse now. Like this is amazing. But we eventually come to it that he's like, he thinks that this time his grandfather told him about is coming. The time of changes. When the men from the hidden island of origin at last would reclaim Natanatan. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, fucking bring it. Let's change the world, motherfuckers.
He watches a woman's children so she can take her sick sister some soup. A tragedy, he agreed. A tragedy, he told the drummer brothers as he helped them pull their tattered sail. So, I mean, he's being helpful at least. Even if he's secretly pleased about things. And his lighthouse is called Defiance, although everyone around here just calls it the lighthouse because it's the only lighthouse here. It's been there for over 100 years. It hasn't been knocked down because the Stormfather knows how important this lighthouse is. I don't think that's the reason, my man.
It's like anytime we talk about Stormfather now, I just imagine him just like talking and being so grumpy. And now I'm just imagining him just like popping up over this island and looking down at Pooley and just going, "Mate, I don't give a shit about your hut."
Yeah.
Stupid lamp hut.
I gotta like. Have you guys seen the Stormfather plush?
There's a plush?
Yeah, they came out in the last campaign. They came out with plushes for each of the for Spren of each of the orders. Hold on, I'll show you the Stormfather one. He just even the plush looks grumpy. Like it's great. So grumpy.
He's very cute grumpy though.
Oh man,
I love it. I love it so fucking much.
It's great.
My God, does he have a cloud mullet?
I mean, he's just got really long cloud hair. I don't think I'd call it a mullet. There's not much in the front.
Cloud mullet.
You're like, no, it's a cloud mullet. Oh, okay, yeah. We'll have to look at some of the stuff more closely. I think like at the end of this book, we're gonna take the quiz about what Radiant Order everyone gets, and then we'll have to. We may turn it into a whole episode where we talk about the Radiant Orders and look at the information that's out about them and the pins and the plushes and stuff, just so everyone can see what the stuff associated with their order is. That might be a fun special episode.
That sounds like fun. I like that.
But we get to the end of this chapter, and he remembers what his grandfather said. They'll come with light in their pockets. They'll come to destroy, but you should watch for them anyway, because they'll come from the origin. The sailors lost on an infinite sea. You keep that fire high at night, Pooley. You burn it bright until the day they come. They'll arrive when the night is darkest. And he goes, I mean, surely that's now, right? There's this new storm, the darkest nights, a tragedy, and a sign. I mean, can it get much darker? Yeah.
Yeah. Something stirred in my memory when, in this, the sailors lost on an infinite sea. Wasn't that one of the stories that Wit told to Kaladin?
The story of the Wander Sail and those sailors who went out there.
Yeah.
we don't know if they ever made it back. They did set out looking for the origin, and they found some weird islands out there. And Kaladin asked if they ever made it back, and Wit's like, yeah, some stories say they did.
Okay.
But, yeah. So that could be a reference to them.
Yeah, could be.
Or a reference to the people on the island they found, I suppose. But, yeah, who knows? The next one is called Elista. And Elista is an ardent who is at the Jokasha Monastery on the western slopes of the Horn-Eater Peaks. So, generally, kept safe from most of the brunt of the high storm because it's on the western slope. The Everstorm, not so much. Apparently, Jokasha is a nice place to be, away from the storms and the politics and the annoyances. Some Ardents try their whole lives to get here. But she's having trouble finding a quiet spot. Ardents everywhere are arguing about all the new stuff that's going on. Two of them are arguing about how often the Everstorm is going to show up.
Every so often, I forget about how savage academics can be.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely a believable conversation. And you're just wow, are they so? Oh, no, that makes sense. Yeah. When they're talking about their math and their theories, they're like, no, you're ridiculous. Clearly, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, I buy it. Brandon is a part-time college professor. I bet he's heard some of this stuff.
How can I take this and make it fantasy?
Yeah. Jokasha is the central home of the Devotary of the Mind, where you're supposed to be able to just chill out, think. I guess that's what they do. It says she was supposed to be able to just read. Dang it. And she tries to find another spot to read, but there's people there arguing about whether they're going to have to move the monastery because the storm is ravaging the woods near here. The new storm doesn't have that strong a wind factor, Benham. Have you looked at my measurements? I've disputed those measurements. Like, it's great.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
And so eventually she has to go out in the woods to find a quiet place to sit and read. Because everyone is so up in arms about this new storm and stuff. And when she gets out there and she can finally sit down, we find out that she's reading a book. We find out later what it's called. What is it called? It's An Accountability of Virtue is the name of the book. And it is about a young lady named Wema. And she's trying to decide between Bright Lord Sterling and Bright Lord Vadam, who she needs to be with. It's like she lowered her gaze from his comely locks, and she's apparently I love how into the story Elista is as she's reading. She's like, "What? No, you silly girl! He's finally pronounced his affection for you. Don't turn away now." Bright Lord Vadam, have you forgotten how he locked away your father? It's great.
Just straight up calls the main character, "You little whore." I'm like,
yeah, I skipped past that part because it's a little harsh.
She's very into it.
She's so into it. It's not like this girl's showing off her safe hand or anything. Like, calm down. And Wema says, "Wait, dear Sterling, wait upon my words." And Alyssa's like, "Storm's right, you'd better wait, Sterling." And just as she's, getting into the meat of this, somebody is like, "Alista, are you here?" I love the quote is "Yep" with an exclamation point. And she has to hide her book, and she's like, "Oh, Ardent Irv."
Maybe you sort of skip the bit. It's like, in the book, like the character in the book puts her safe hand still in the sleeve up on the dude's jaw, and Alicia's like, "Oh, it's getting hot out here."
Yeah. Yes, it was so warm out here in the forest, practically sweltering. Yeah, no, it's. Oh my gosh, these. I love how committed they are to this bit of the safe hand. It's great.
Yep.
The new guy's like, "Hey, what are you studying?" And she goes, "Important works. Nothing to mind yourself with. What do you want?" And they have a discussion about the Dawn Chant. Old Navani Kolin in Alethkar had somehow cracked the Dawn Chant. Her story about visions was nonsense. The Kolin family was known for opaque politics, but her key was authentic. And so they've been working through these Dawn Chant texts and actually translating them for the first time ever. I love how dismissive there is. Like, obviously that's all bullshit, but it works, so we're going to use it. And so they have a discussion about, like, apparently the conclusion she's come to, at least, is that back in the day, different areas spoke different languages, but they had one written language. She says, kind of like the Alethi language of scholarship that you find all the undertext written in nowadays. So all the Dawn Chant stuff is readable with the same key because it was the same across, the written language was the same everywhere. The spoken language was different. But there's a weird, there's a desolation hits, they lose this connection and this ability, and there's an in-between period where each different area starts using the same script to phonetically transcribe their local language. So that's when it breaks into pieces and it's impossible to figure out. And she's like, we've always wondered how people could forget their own language. Like, how did that happen with the Dawn Chant? But now it seems clear that the language had been moribund for millennia. No one has been speaking it for generations. And that's how you lose track of it. And he's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, I got stuck on this piece, but if what you're saying is true, that's because this isn't true Dawn Chant. Okay. And that's when he notices the book. And she's like, oh no, he saw it. And he goes, oh, an Accountability of Virtue. Good book.
I like the thing. She's just like, is he looking at my lap? Oh no, he's seen the book. I'm sitting on it.
Actually, he says, was he looking at her and then stops and she's sitting on the book? So I think maybe it was a different
something in that vicinity. Was he checking out her ass? Was she looking at was he looking at something else in the vicinity?
Something around there. Yeah.
The implication is clear.
And this guy's like, oh yeah, I have a fondness for Alethi epics. She really should have picked Vadim, though. Sterling was a flatterer and a cadger. And she's like,
spoilers.
Sterling is a noble and upright officer. Oh, and you're just trying to get a rise out of me. Okay. And he says that he has a copy of the sequel about the mousy little sister who gets elevated to courtly attention and has to choose between a strapping naval officer, a Thalen banker, and the king's wit. And she's like, wait, there's 3 guys in this one? Like, yeah, sequels always have to be bigger. And he agrees to lend it to her in exchange for helping him with a section of the Dawn Chant. A particular patron of mine has a strict deadline upon its delivery.
I think that patron will have big implications.
Oh, you do? Do you have theories about who it might be?
No, like my gut initial reaction was like, oh, is Taravangian like trying to find something in secret? But like that doesn't make any sense. He's in her theory, like he's talking to Navani herself, and she has no reason to, deny it to him. She would happily share it. So it's like he would have people there who could do it. He wouldn't need to outsource to this monastery. So I don't know. I feel like it might be one of the other secret societies, since there's fucking heaps on this planet.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Yeah. The Rhythm of the Lost is our last interlude here, and it is Venli and her buddies are going down into the chasms now that the Everstorm has passed. It's apparent
we lost Eshonai, but we kept Venli. Man, what a trade down.
Yeah, you know what? That is you're not the only one to have that opinion at this point. Yeah. We find out that apparently Stormform has like chitin, however you say it, underneath the skin. So like she got cut by a spear to the face, but it just like gave her a cut. The armor underneath the skin stopped it from like being fatal or anything. So that's kind of interesting. It also, she says she can climb down the wall of stone into the chasm with no fear that she might fall. So it's got all sorts of little benefits. And her and some other Parshmen or Parshendi listeners, whatever you want to call them, they're down here looking for Eshonai on Ulim's orders. Ulim being the Spren that is kind of bossing them around.
Yeah, well, it's like that's sort of similar to the Parshmen with their little glowy Spren that Kaladin was hanging out with. It's like the Spren really seem to be taking point on all this.
Yep.
So,
and Venli takes issue with it. She's like, "Why should I continue to obey your orders, Spren? You should obey me." And the Spren just ignores her. Like, yeah, whatever.
Also, like, how big is he? Is he like regular size Spren? I got the impression he was bigger than normal.
I think at one point he like lands on Demid's hand in this section.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed that bit.
So it's not like huge.
I've sort of pictured like a Syl-sized equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah. Although Syl can make herself look bigger and smaller if she wants. I think we've seen that. So maybe it's not like a single thing. I don't know. And like Demid, her once mate, who had been a scholar with her, is helping her search. And he says, our sacrifice was worthwhile. Yeah, we lost many, but the humans sought our extinction. So if some of us survive, then we win. And also, we have great power now. And then they find her. Eshonai sitting there. And Venli's like, Eshonai, finally! Eshonai looked exhausted. In fact, she wasn't moving. Are you well, Eshonai? And then she realizes, yeah, she's not well. She is dead.
That was
Ulim on the
quite sad.
Right? I don't know. It seems weird to me that she thought Eshonai was alive, but I guess we kind of get an explanation for that. But it's just like, oh yeah, obviously we're gonna go down in the chasms and find her alive.
Yeah, it just really puts the tragic cap on Eshonai's life.
Yep.
You know, she was working so hard for the freedom of her people, and then she became prisoner in her own mind, and she never got free of that. She died like that.
Yep. It is. Yeah. We liked
Because of-
Eshonai, and it's
Yeah.
sad.
And it was because of the machinations of her sister. Because like I think she sort of hints in this. She took storm form before convincing the council to do it. Is that what I was reading into this?
Yes, I believe so. Hold on, let me go back.
So like, yeah, like despite all these things, like Eshonai will be the one to take the burden on for the Parshendi. Turns out, oh, Venli's already done it and is manipulating everyone else into doing it too. So
Yeah.
Venli caused this.
There's a section where it says all of her work, meeting with Ulim in secret, guiding her people towards storm form. It had been about saving her people, hadn't it? So yeah, she and this Spren were plotting specifically to get to storm form before any of that happened. Yep.
Yeah, lying the whole time. Because Eshonai was suspicious of her. It's like something you're not telling me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we get to, she thinks like the good of her people actually had always been secondary to Venli. Now was a late time to be having a bout of conscience. So yeah, she told herself, "Oh, it's for the good of my people," but really it was for the good of Venli. She did not a great person, or Parshendi. Hey, yeah, this is where Ulim they realize that Eshonai is dead, and Ulim is like, "Ah, excellent, Demid, your hand." And then Ulim comes over and is like standing on his hand. Plate looks completely drained, broken along the back. I see. Well, it's supposed to regrow. Let's take that. And Venli's like, "Wait, you just wanted the plate?" It's like, well, I mean the blade too. Why else would we be hunting a corpse? Oh, you thought she was alive? And Venli's like, well, when you said we needed to find my sister, I thought. And he's like, yeah, it looks like she drowned in the storm waters, rammed the sword in the stone and held on to stay in place, but couldn't breathe. So yeah, as Dak pointed out, you guys were right. The fall did not kill her. She's still dead though.
What a shitty consolation prize.
Right? Yeah. And they have this taboo against touching the bodies of the dead. And we finally find out where it comes from. We've known that since the first book. But it says, the old song spoke of days when humans had hacked apart listener corpses searching for their gem hearts. Leaving the dead in peace was their way.
That's awful.
Yeah, that is disturbing as hell.
That is absolutely disgusting, and depressingly, it is not at all surprising.
No, yeah, I believe it. 100%. And she thinks, staring at Eshonai, like, you were the voice of reason. You're the one who argued. You were supposed to keep me grounded. What do I do without you? And Ulim goes, well, let's get the plate off, kids. And Venli goes, show respect. He's like, respect for what? It was best for this one to have died.
I hate him.
Yeah. And he says, your sister didn't undergo the transformation properly. She resisted, and we'd have eventually lost her. She was never dedicated to our cause. And Venli gets pissed off. You will not say such things. You are Spren. You are to serve. And I do. Then you must obey me. And he goes, he laughs at her. You? Child, how long have you been fighting your little war against the humans? And she's like, 6 years. Do you want to guess how long we've been fighting this war? Go ahead, guess. I'm waiting. Do you know how to lead armies, Venli? True armies? Supply troops across a battlefront that spans hundreds of miles? Do you have the memories and experiences that span eons? Our leaders know exactly what they're doing. Them I obey. I don't have to listen to you. And he tells her, like, look, your sister and the other people in charge of your people, the 5, they killed the Alethi king specifically to keep us from returning. Your people are traitors, though your personal efforts do you justice, Venli. You may be blessed further if you are wise. We must be away and see what your ancestors need us to do. And Demid goes, our ancestors? What do the dead have to do with this? And Ulim says, everything, seeing as how they're the ones in charge now.
He's throwing a lot at me right now.
Yep.
Like, just going back to a bit, he's like, oh yeah, like I obey the leaders, but I'm the one who escaped the Spren of Redemption. I'm like, are you being metaphorical, or is that literally your deal as a Spren?
It's not like
The redemption
capitalized or
Spren.
anything, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, honor is often capitalized, but I think some.
Yeah, I don't think honor Spren necessarily
honor
is.
Spren isn't. No.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sure is not. So yeah, we don't know much about this guy except he's kind of a jerk. There's a cat meowing. That's annoying.
And like Vanley could be wrong, but Vanley says he's a Spren sent directly from Odium himself. I'm like, oh shit, that's.
Yep.
I think that's maybe why I thought maybe the guy was bigger. I'm just like, this guy's not another one of the Unmade, is he? But no, he jumped on William's hand. But he could have shrunk himself. I don't know. There's just so much. I'm so confused.
Yep. I don't blame you. There's a lot of information here, and there's a lot that it's hard for us to understand. Why are their ancestors in charge? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And so they strip the corpse, and Venli has a moment where she's like, you know what? Finally, I don't have to listen to you call me a fool. I don't have to worry about you getting in the way. I can do what I want. And then thinks to herself that terrifies her. And then she sees something. Was that a small spren that had crept out from beneath Esranai's corpse? It looked like a small ball of white fire. Like a comet. What are you? Shoo! And then she leaves. And that is the end. They leave the body there. Food for either a chasm fiend or a storm. And that leads us into part 2. New Beginnings Sing. And we get a cool illustration of Urithiru. From different angles, cool. Even. Let's see here. From the east, in a little picture. From the west, in another picture. With what I assume is Kaladin hanging there, just because why not? The city is incredibly huge. Scale. Yeah, Kaladin for scale. The city is incredibly huge. The note says a chasm fiend's back would not reach the 4th floor. So yeah, big old place. And we even see the plateau outside that has the 10 different circular platforms for the Oath Gate. So that's kind of neat too. And chapter 33 is called A Lecture. And our new epigraph is Dearest Saphandrius. I received your communication, of course. All right.
That was what Preservation called Hoyd, wasn't it?
Somebody has definitely called Hoyd that. I don't remember specifically, but yes.
I'm pretty sure that was Preservation in Secret History.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense, yeah. Okay. So, someone's talking to Hoyd, maybe.
In response to the letter from Way of Kings, I guess?
Well, no, the letter in Way of Kings was to Hoyd. The letter that we saw in Words of Radiance was a response, I think, or vice versa. We've seen a letter from Hoyd and a letter to Hoyd that they were responses to each other. I don't remember for sure which was which.
Yeah. Just another one. Who is fucking ferrying mail between these, like, divine beings?
This is an excellent question. Yep, I've wondered the same thing at this point. And so we're in Shallan's perspective again. Yasna was alive. Yasna Kholin was alive. Shallan was supposed to be recovering. Never mind that the bridgeman had handled the fighting. All she'd done was grope an eldritch spren. Which I like that we get the eldritch in there, just like Dax said last time. And also that it is described as groping.
Gross.
But, yeah, right? And Shallan starts to realize that she's been slipping in her scholarship a little bit. She's been drawing weird shit and not like analytical in her drawings. So she's going to work on that. And also write down her experience with the Unmade, like record it. This is important scholarship that no one else can do. No one else has this experience. So she needs to write this down. So Shallan's trying, it's almost like she's trying to come up with excuses to not see Yasna for now. Like, I'm recovering, you know?
I was sort of worried that it was becoming I haven't sort of done what Yasna taught me to do. I don't want to see her. I'm going to do some stuff that maybe Yasna would want to see.
Mm-hmm. But eventually she's like, you know what? I got to go see her. Yasna's actually supposed to come visit me tonight, Navani said, but I got to go. She had to know how Yasna had survived. And where we eventually do find Yasna is in that same room, where with the giant pillar of gems. Not a single gemstone, but a myriad of them fused together. Emerald, ruby, topaz, and sapphire, not one word. All 10 varieties, melted into a single thick pillar 20 feet tall.
Topfire sounds like a really nasty disease.
It does, right? Yeah. Like you have to get your toe amputated if you have that.
Yeah, it's like fungal.
Mm. And there's a great line, at least I think it's a great line, where as she looks at Yasna, she thinks, making Yasna Kholin as beautiful as she was brilliant was one of the most unfair things the Almighty had ever done.
Are you okay, Shalon?
There's a certain other Sanderson podcast that I listen to where they really call out these moments because there are more of them than you probably think, where they're just like, yeah, that's totally straight, Shalon. Shalon does seem to comment on how attractive Yasna is a lot.
Also, as Joe's pointed out, like Shallan also tends to put down a lot of the other women that she comes into contact with. So
You're not wrong, yeah.
I was like, this could be like she's got Yasna on a pedestal in like every way.
Yeah, it could be. She definitely looked
Yeah.
up to Yasna a lot at the beginning, so yeah.
Yeah.
And Yasna, like, no preamble, no, like, greetings. It's just like, my mother thinks this must be an incredibly intricate fabrial. A logical assumption, we've always believed the ancients had access to great and wonderful technology. How else do you explain shard blades? And Shalon's like, but shard blades aren't fabrials. They're spren, transformed by the bond. And Yasna goes, well, yeah, fabrials are kind of the same thing. You know how they're made, right? And Shalon goes, I mean, not really. And then she thinks to herself, this is how our reunion goes? A lecture? Well, fitting. Okay. Yeah, that's about right. You capture a spren, imprison it inside a gemstone crafted for the purpose, and specific stimuli will provoke certain responses. For example, flame spren give off heat by pressing metal against a ruby with a flame spren trapped inside. And Shalon's like, that's terrible! Like, we're imprisoning the spren? And Yasna's like, I mean, it's basically like hitching a wagon to a chull. And Shalon goes, yeah, if in order to get a chull to pull a wagon, you had to first lock it in a box forever. And Pattern, being a spren, agrees. And Yasna's like, look, there are spren, and then there are spren, okay? Do a sketch of this pillar for me. Make sure you get the proportion and colors right, please. And Shalon is kind of like, look, Shalon has gotten a lot of respect, even admiration from people. She's one of the Radiants. She's like one of the most looked up to people in the entire tower. She's involved in everything. She's important. So having Yasna just like start ordering her around, like that rubs her the wrong way. What was she? Some servant to be given orders? And then a part of her's like, yes, that is exactly what you are. You are Yasna's ward. Like that is the relationship between you.
It's like it's literally the reason you're here.
Yeah. And then she's like, when did I get so touchy? Like, yeah, I can sketch a thing. Like that's my thing. And Yasna is like, hey, I was heartened to hear you made it here on your own. I'm sorry about what happened on the Wind's Pleasure. My lack of foresight caused the deaths of many and doubtless hardship for you. Like, she actually apologizes, which is not a thing Yasna does much of, we learned in the past. So she's being kind of magnanimous here.
Yeah.
And she compliments her several times. She's like, look, you've done really well. What you've accomplished is brilliant. We're going to have to talk more about the group that tried to assassinate me. The Ghostbloods will almost certainly start targeting you now that you've begun progressing towards your final ideals.
Yeah, about that.
This would have been the time to bring it up, I feel like. You're like, she gave you a perfect opening.
I mean, is there anyone else around? Maybe.
Oh, that's a
maybe
good point.
They can't talk.
I don't know that it
'Cause
mentions anyone else.
technically,
But
Shallan. Yeah, like Shallan's not with the Ghostbloods. It's Vale, and if she's splitting her personalities, maybe I don't know, different.
I hadn't considered that. That's a good point. And I don't know why Shallan asked the next question. She's like, are you sure it was the Ghostbloods? She knows that. Mraize has admitted, like, yes, we killed Yasna. But, I don't know. And Yasna goes, yes, of course I'm sure. Are you certain you're well enough to be about? You seem uncharacteristically reserved. And then she's like, oh, you're upset because I of the secrets I kept. And Shallan's like, hey, we all need secrets. I know that, but it would have been nice if you'd let us know you were alive. And she's basically like, I didn't really have a chance to do that until I get to the war camps. And at that point, it would not have been smart to advertise my survival with the Ghostbloods around. She's like, okay, but how did you survive? And she goes, child, I am an else caller. And sassy Shallan comes to the fore once again. Of course, an else caller, Brightness, the thing you never explained. A word which no one but the most dedicated scholar of the esoteric would recognize. That explains it all.
Look, sometimes sassy Shallan, I'm just like, ugh, really? But this time I'm like, nope, she's got a point. We still have no idea what that means, really.
And Yasna even smiles in response. I feel like Yasna also agrees that it's okay, fair. You got a point. And she tells her, like, look, all Radiants have a connection to Shadesmar. My order has has special control over moving between the realms. I was able to shift to Shadesmar to escape my would-be assassins, which I'm pretty sure at least some of you guys predicted. So there you go. I mean, I guess we kind of knew that when she showed up at the end of the last book, but it is now explicit that that is what she did to get away. But apparently the hard part was getting back from Shadesmar. She had to find a transfer point, which is way harder than you probably think. And yeah, Shallan thinks maybe her being here will take some of the pressure off me. Yasna can be Brightness Radiant now. And I'll just be like whatever I am. And Yasna's like, we got to talk more. I want to hear your story about this whole thing. I assume you've got sketches of the transformed Parshman. She even, I love that once again, she kind of apologizes. She's like, look, I once disparaged the usefulness of your artistic skill. I now find reason to call myself foolish for that presumption. So she's really being a big person here, at least in Yasna terms.
Yeah, it's really nice to see her. It's like she's really trying to meet Shallan at her level, and
Yeah.
like I caused a lot of problems for you, and I've insulted with the thing that you love doing in the past. I'm really sorry. Yeah, from everything we know of Yasna, this is not common.
No, 100%. And Shallan's over here like, how's she going to react when she finds out about me and the Ghost Bloods? I mean, I am kind of using them for information. She might find that admirable. But before she can kind of start that conversation, Yasna says, I feel lost. I've been working towards this for years. I've been at the front of all this. And now I'm scrambling to stay afloat. The visions my uncle is having, the refounding of the Knights Radiant. She even has a moment where she brings up Kaladin. She's like, what do you think of that guy? I find him much as I imagined his order, but I've only met him once. It's all happening so quickly, and I understand so very little. And we end it with Shallan thinking, for all their differences, there were occasionally things she and Yasna shared. She just wished that ignorance weren't at the top of the list. Which is a very interesting little punctuation to end that chapter with. I like that. But that brings us to predicaments. Where are we going? What's going to happen now that we're kind of establishing a new level set? Kaladin's back, Yasna's back. Shallan's not sure where she belongs at this point. I don't know that we have any perspective characters now who are not in the tower at this moment. So that's got to be where we're going from here, right? What do you guys think? For next time, I should note, we're reading, 3 more chapters. 34, 35, 36. And those chapters are called, 34 is Resistance, 35 is First into the Sky, and 36 is Hero.
I mean, First into the Sky, because Bridge 4, the blanket term, is a perspective character, that makes me think, oh, now that Kaladin's back, his people who were getting powers will get powers. Like, they mooch off his power. So maybe he's teaching them all how to be Windrunners. I wonder what that means. Do they have to then find a Spren? Does a Spren get drawn to them because they've got the power? Yeah, I've got no idea.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really know where we're going at this point. Now, yeah, as I said, now that we've had the shake-up of Yasna coming back, I want to see her interacting with all the other characters. I want to see her reaction to Elhokar has made Dalinar High King and like changed the form of politics, and she's like, Elhokar, you fucking what? I just want to see Yasna and Elhokar interact. I want to see this relationship between the two siblings who are very, very different to each other. But yeah, honestly, not really sure what to predict here. We're entering a part 2, so it's like, all right, now this part has to set its stage and show where we've progressed. Again, I thought it was interesting that we sort of just glazed over Kaladin coming back. Like, has Shallan spoken to Kaladin by this point? And, they've mentioned, by the way, I know you killed my brother.
Yeah,
So,
that's the thing.
I don't feel like that would be glazed over, but I've been wrong about that before, so yeah. Don't really have a lot of predictions at this time.
Yeah, fair. You guys have specifically objected to some other like major scenes in the past that Brandon has kind of skipped past, and you're like, but like that was the thing I was looking forward to happening. And this may be one of the first times that I'm like, no, I'm really on y'all's side about that, because it does seem like we glazed over Yasna's return and everyone reactions to that, Kaladin's return and everyone's reactions to that. I guess there is still time for us to see his perspective on that, but it does feel a little bit like we've skipped over some stuff that I would have liked to read at the beginning of part 2.
I mean, Shallan knows that Yasna is a Radiant. Has she told Dalinar? It's like, by the way, I am one as well. Because Dalinar probably needs to know that.
Well, Shallan told Dalinar in the last book that Yasna was one.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so
so how will she feel about her secret being out now? Maybe is the better question.
Yeah.
Shallan, you outed me? It's like, well, I thought you were dead. To be fair.
Yeah. Oh wait, sorry. No, I did have one crackpot theory that I forgot about, which is probably horrifically wrong, but we'll just throw it out there anyway. There's the hint, like, is Ray Shafir, how do you pronounce it? Like the Unmade were they humans that became Spren? I'm like, okay, what if I've said before, the Unmade I think are the 9 shadows. What if they're the heralds who abandoned their tasks, and they they became the 9 shadows, and the reason there's 9 is because Talon stayed and did his duty. So, and then over time, because they turned away from their duty, they became Odium's pawns and became like his biggest and baddest Spren.
Interesting.
Yeah, but doesn't really hold weight considering we've seen one of the heralds at least that we know for certain. We've seen Nail out there doing his thing.
True. Yeah.
And it doesn't really seem to align with Odium's goals. So I thought it was a fun idea. It doesn't hold water once you put a little bit of scrutiny onto it, but it was nice to imagine. I'm still trying to pick on why, like, the 9 shadows thing, and that was the only correspondence I could think of.
I see that. But yeah, we have seen Nail. You guys have seen some other heralds, even if you didn't know it. And we have the one vision that Dalinar has of back during the days of the desolations or whatever. We saw like the smoke dog monster things that now appear to have come from this particular Unmade. So it seems like they were around, or at least some of them back then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look, I don't have a huge amount today, given that, end of one part, starting another part. I think there are a lot of conversations that we need to see happen. Kaladin's got some pretty significant information which will need to be shared, and enough of our characters would have to be in the room for that. I think that would be pretty hard for Brandon to just gloss over and not see that. Maybe they're all we've arrived back and we're just going to, recover a bit, freshen up, and then come together and talk about what we've seen. So I think those sorts of conversations are going to have to come up pretty soon with our characters. Yeah, regarding specific chapter titles, I've got nothing, really. I think there's going to be more importance to this Spren that's come out of Eshonai's, or from under her body or something. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but there's got to be something to that. And then this discussion about the ancestors and what they want, having Eshonai perhaps not quite on board with what was going on. Maybe somehow she would be able to join in with our characters. If this fight becomes less about Parshendi and Parshman versus humans versus the oppressed and the oppressors, or you can say right or wrong, but who's right in your own perspective. Maybe we see a different level to this war that's going on, but how long that would take to come to fruition, I don't know. We've still got a lot of books to go. But yeah, that's really all I've got today.
We do have a lot of books to go, right? Or a lot of book to go. I guess in terms of numbers of books that are out so far, this is 3 out of 5, so we don't have that far to go in books that are currently published, but there's a lot of book to read.
True, yes.
Where are we here? We are 27% of the way through the book now. So we passed
a quarter.
Yeah. Past the quarter mark after, what episode is this? This is the 11th episode of this book.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got a little ways to go, But yeah, I mean, you do have a good point about like we talked about stuff that we missed, but yeah, it may just be we've just started part 2. Maybe we're taking a little break and we're going to come together and address that stuff that has been kind of left out so far. We still have a chance to do that. We're only one chapter into part 2, so you are right on that front. At least there's time. It will be interesting to see what is the plan going forward from here. They're gonna have to get together and go, okay, well, what do we do now? We kind of know Dalinar's plan, I guess. He's gonna try to get the other kingdoms on his side using visions, but beyond that, but I can see why it would be hard for both of you now to make predictions at this point. We've kind of wrapped up a couple of things. We wrapped up Kaladin's excursion with the out into the world. He's come back now. We've wrapped up Yasna being out in the world. Also, she's made it to the tower. Who knows if Wit is with her? But it's almost like we're resetting here a little bit for at least some of the characters. Shallan's gonna have to find a new equilibrium. Also, now that Yasna is here, she's a ward again. So yeah. Well, all right. I guess let's do a couple of emails. Why not? We'll wait another couple of weeks for Joe to get back to do any patrons that have joined us. But all right, let's see. We have an email. This one is called "Finally Caught Up." This is from Snot Ninja. That is the specific request was to call them that. So
Snot Ninja.
Yep. So I caught up last week. All told, I got to live 4 years worth of podcast in 3 weeks. Jeez, that
sounds exhausting.
It does, right? Yeah. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate that you're here. Love how last week, while you didn't read my email, you did mention me, as I'm the guy who couldn't figure out the spelling of your email and reached out on Reddit. Call me Snot Ninja, by the way. I get that sometimes my name can be less than easy to pronounce if you didn't grow up as a religious Jew. Yeah, I read a previous email from this person and did have trouble pronouncing their name, so they requested this. I'm truly enjoying Dak's idea of what will happen with the, quote, God King.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one.
You recently mentioned Secret Project 5 and the Sixth of the Dusk short. You seem confused as to how they're connected. Brandon has clearly stated the short story will be incorporated as flashbacks with small changes in the new book. I'd heard it a couple different ways, so if that's the final word on it, then I'm cool with. I'm happy about that. That'll be interesting, especially if there's some little changes. We can judge the differences there.
I mean, whenever we get to it.
I left a 5-star review on Spotify, but I don't see any way to screenshot it. Can I get jumped in anyway? Well, I'm happy to be back, and so on. Okay. I was very happy to have the first podcast I had to wait for from you. Well, thank you again. Wasn't to the time of next, Colo Airsick Lowlanders. So I'm going to note that is one that we need to make sure that Joe does when he gets back for the review. I didn't realize that was in there, or I might have waited on that email also. Interesting. Okay, so this one is from RJ from Pittsburgh. Is the bottom. Dalinar Flashbacks is what it's called. Hey, Data, Joe, Dak, and Jamie.
Oh, here we go.
First, I want to say I love the pod. I started listening last year when I was doing a reread of the Cosmere for Wind and Truth. I love your insights and pet theories. Volcano theory is true in my heart. I'm always impressed that Data can talk about the books without spoilers. Well, with one glaring exception. Oathbringer is my favorite book in the Cosmere, and when I did reread, I noticed something interesting. The Dalinar flashbacks seem to be triggered by something that happens in the previous Dalinar POV chapter. For the first one, Dalinar notices Teleb's widow and then has a flashback to meeting Teleb for the first time. That's true. I guess we didn't know it was Teleb. He met that archer. We didn't find out till later that it was Teleb, so that would have been hard to spot if you the first time through. The second one, Kadash brings up the rift, and the next flashback is Dalinar attacking the rift and winning his shard blade. The third one, he and Navani are talking about Adolin's claim on his shard plate, and Dalinar can hear Evie's name again. And then the next flashback is him getting engaged to her in exchange for a set of shard plate, and learning her name and seeing her for the first time. Just thought that it was interesting and something to keep an eye out for. Thanks, RJ from Pittsburgh. That is interesting. I had not spotted that, and now I kind of feel like I need to go back and look at these. I'm curious if that's a consistent thing throughout the book.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Of course, we don't know that it was a Dalinar flashback until we get to the Dalinar flashback, so then we have to go, wait, what was the previous Dalinar chapter?
And yeah, like you said, it may not always help, like with the Teleb thing, because we didn't know that was Teleb until later.
Right, yeah, exactly. All right, we got a couple other real short emails that we can do, and then I'll save the rest. This one is from Richard, the Thick Book. Writing in again. Thanks, Richard. It's always good to hear from our mascot. This email is called Penguins of Bridge 4. Hello again, Sander Lanch crew. I was listening to the latest episode in which the Stormlight Archive was envisioned as Madagascar. And I feel like the most obvious one was missed. The penguins are Bridge 4.
Oh my god. I love it.
Oh, shit.
Skipper, of course, is Kaladin. Kowalski is Sigzil. Rico is the Lopin. And Private, I don't know. I would say Teft, but that doesn't fit, so I'll say Rock. Greetings from Richard.
Hang on a minute. Isn't Private's like the really young, eager one? That's the Lopin, dude.
I don't remember the names of the penguins from Madagascar. I'm sorry. So I don't remember which one is which, except for obviously the leader one. I remember him, but otherwise I don't remember them that well.
I do love this comparison though. That is fucking awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Yeah. I'm not even gonna. Yeah, they're Bridge 4. It makes sense. All right.
I feel like when Joe gets back, we'll like let's do this. Oh, we got this thing that kind of turned into a running gag of like the Stormlight cast with the characters from Madagascar, and Joe's gonna be like, of all fucking movies, you pick Madagascar.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like that's what we said in the first place, so he's not out of line.
Yeah.
I was watching Madagascar with our daughter the other night, and the bit with Alex changing, between, nice, calm Alex and wild Alex. I was like, yeah, that's Dalinar. Yep, we're onto something there. That works.
I don't think I've ever shown my little ones Madagascar, because it's not one of my favorite animated movies, so it's not like one of the ones I'm bringing out first thing. Might have to. I bet they would enjoy that.
Like I don't think it's the greatest animated movie ever. I think far from it, but it's fun. It's fun and it's enjoyable. Like it's nice bite-sized entertainment.
Yeah, it's fine. Right now they're very into Teen Titans Go, which I'm not a huge fan of, honestly. But I tried to expose them to it. It's like, well, why don't we watch like real Teen Titans, like a good show, and not this? And they were like, they watched a couple episodes. They're like, yeah, it's not bad, but Teen Titans Go, come on. Anyway,
what can you do?
Sorry to any fans out there who love Teen Titans Go, but it's not.
It's like Wit said. Like it doesn't matter if like the second one is better. The first one was first.
That's true. I would still object to the idea that the second one might be better in this case, since it's just so. And anyway. So we're not gonna.
No, my point was your kids saw Teen Titans Go first, so that's the one in their head, and then they see the other Teen Titans, and it's like, yeah, but we saw this one first.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay. Anyway, one more email before we get too far off on that tangent. The last one is from Alec, and it's called Episode 101. Started listening back in December, and I'm working my way through the catalog. I'm convinced some of you keep reading ahead with these predictions. I can't wait to see the crew's reaction to the Stormlight books. Keep up the good work. Wasing to the time of next. P.S. Hello, me in 5 months. So I guess Alec has just gotten to 101 when they wrote this email.
Yep.
Which, what episode are we on now? Let's see. We just
like
released
230s or something.
This week's episode that came out was 241. So
shit, we're nearly at 250.
We are almost at 250. Yep. And we passed 500,000 downloads at some point, which I meant to do something for, and I don't think I did. So
that is insane to me.
I know, right? Crazy. But thank you guys for your emails. If anyone would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanch@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Patreon, where I'm still putting up my reactions to Wind and Truth. Once I get the new Secret Project book, Isles of the Emberdark, I'm going to have to read that for the Patreon too. I don't know if I'll start trying to put out like one of those two books on Tuesday and one on Thursday, or if I'll just keep going and start that one when I finish the one that I'm doing now, but I am going to do it. It'll come out on the Patreon. I'm just not sure how long it's going to take. So if you're interested in hearing me read those things for the first time, check out the Patreon. But thank you to all you emailers, all our patrons. You guys are awesome. People on our Discord, if you want to check out the Discord, there's a link on our website, www.thesanderlanch.com. Remember, we are reading 3 chapters for next time, chapters 34, 35, and 36. So if you're following along, do those 3 chapters. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wasing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crabatti.
Corona's wide, supernovas die, fractured in the fateful fall of man. Feel the heart raging of a strength unseen, unity will bring the upper hand. So look to the break of dawn.